Get in focus. All right, so the spurgery continues on Twitter, and it feels like Twitter is running out of steam a little bit as the alternative platforms start to grow. Click the links, and you will have click the links. Okay, so first of all, before we get to that, Renfamous is offering her usual hot takes. It's like she doesn't believe anything. She doesn't believe most of the things she's advocating for. She just wants either a PayPal, Patreon, whatever simps are giving her money, to give her money if that's her shtick. And if it's not monetary, then she's getting that sweet, sweet dopamine of being in the center of attention. Of just being, what was that book? The guy goes to the island, everyone's like small. Just being a mouthpiece for attention, basically, for the mainstream industry that the mainstream industry feels like it's losing a little steam itself. Okay, so I don't hate Renfamous or people like her who I feel like there's a like if you got her outside of social media sphere and had a couple cocktails, like she doesn't give a shit about these people at all. She doesn't give two shits about these people. Most of these people on Twitter who are so happy to be, I don't know, Twitter warriors, they don't give two shits about anything. When you're on social media, you get kind of trapped in these allowable spectrum of opinions, more so on the left than on the right. Like on the right, there's people you're constantly infighting for people who are like during the times of MAGA, there was like this libertarians who were not pro-police. Like we were trying to tell people, like, yeah, the police are not, this thin blue line stuff is nonsense. The police are not your friends. They're not all your enemies, but they will do whatever their masters tell them to do. And like, what have you seen? Oh yeah, the police have done whatever their masters told them to do. So on Gab, you don't see any, that thin blue line MAGA stuff is slowly dying away, as well it should. And the libertarian people who are saying, like, yeah, the state in general is not your friend. You can just stop all that thin blue line nonsense. But if you're on the left and you see like this the T and the LGBT thing going on, there's a lot of left people who are looking at the T and going, yeah, maybe trans kids dancing on stage for money, mutilating them and sterilizing children permanently. There's no there's no undoing that. You don't put that genie back in the bottle. Maybe that's not so cool. Oh, you're a TERF, which is basically the same as being German of the 1930s. Really? Okay, I mean, hey, continue to split yourselves, knock yourselves out. So I don't hate Renfamous because she's kind of trapped in a pigeonhole where if she came out, if she has opinions that are not, like, you can't go right when you're on the left at all. You can only go further left, or you can just refrain from commenting on opinions. So that's why I don't hate her, because I don't think this is the real her. She's just doing this for dopamine, and she's trapped in this like pigeonhole. Okay, so canceling people is losing some steam. It's not, going from Marvel's Immortal Hulk that was at like, I think it almost hit 100,000, which a few years ago wouldn't have been much, but now, or at least 2 years ago in 2018, was huge. It's if you're getting fired off that and you're going to Arkhaven, which is great. Arkhaven is good. It's a bunch of very solid comics. Yeah, that's a huge hit. You're not. It's like 10% of the money. It's like now you're going to be going on Comicsgate. You're working with RT Bear, which is great. RT Bear is fantastic, black and white on Indiegogo. You probably do a cover for Ethan Van Sciver. That's great, but it's not that guaranteed income of working on Immortal Hulk, which Al Ewing, of course, let the comic go to its conclusion before he blacklisted him. Al Ewing is this. Oh shit! I don't want to do that. That fat, pasty sack of human excrement, just garbage. Just there's drawings that go around. I think Ethan Van Sciver drew the drawing of the soy boy, the furrowed brow, the beard, just spine removed at birth, just a total bitch, just bent over for his wife's strap-on type of just garbage human. Like these left-wing soy boys are so desperate to sniff panties that they will say or do anything to be the white knight in the fedora. It's go jogging, eat less. So this sack of garbage cancels their Brazilian guy for daring to have an opinion off the plantation, and the Twitter commie kids are bending over backwards to applaud themselves. That pasty sack of shit, Al Ewing. Anyway, so getting blacklisted off of Marvel, that's a hit. But then I started to think about it. Like, yeah, it is a legitimate hit. There's no cancellation is losing some steam, but that's a big hit. Coming to Comicsgate, you're going to be probably working twice as hard for half the money, but then you're also building something that is your own IP, where you're not working on someone else. So it's like, it's not the worst position to be in. So I was thinking, like, yeah, okay, Immortal Hulk went from like 90,000, I think, is its peak, and then it drops in half like anything else, and now it's over. I don't know what it ended up at, because once it goes digital, it's like, once it goes digital, the money drops by, an order of magnitude, because you're not selling these paper books anymore. I think they're still selling paper books, but it's like a lot of the power has gone out of mainstream comics. So I'm thinking, yeah, it's a hit, but would have Al Ewing Joe Bennett, which is his pen name, his real name is some kind of unpronounceable Portuguese thing. Would he have got, no offense, Portuguese, would he have got hired for another project that would have sold, in the six figures? Is Marvel at that stage now? Like, Marvel's in a much worse position than they were a few years ago, so I don't know. Like, yeah, it sucks to get kicked off of Marvel and have to go for Arkhaven and Comicsgate and to pick up projects here and there. But, you also get to own those IPs. But, yeah, it's a hit, but like, Marvel's not the Marvel it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Like, it's a whole different environment now. So, yeah, getting canceled sucks, but it's not what it was. And then another thing these Twitter commie idiots go is like, everyone who disagrees with us is a hate group. Comicsgate's a bunch of like 40, 50-year-old people with wives and kids and grandkids making comics. There's just 20, 30 years ago, they would have been solid Democrats. But because the window has shifted so far left, like, now these guys are on the right. The thing is, they're not on the far right. I mean, it'd be a lot cooler if they were, but they're not. They're just not on the far right. So these Twitter comic kids shoot their loads. They call Comicsgate literally Germans of the 1930s. And Ethan Van Sciver is literally the Austrian corporal, who was also an artist, who was actually a pretty solid artist. I've seen some of his pieces. Pretty solid little artist. Not a bad guy, just misunderstood. There goes YouTube channel. So they call everyone CG, like they apply these appellations to them. They're just nonsense. You look at them like, you listen to them like, yeah, so they're telling jokes late at night on YouTube, and you're equating that to people who are involved in a war. It just makes you look like a child who's never experienced anything real in their life to compare these two things. Is so unbelievably asinine to do so. Oh, but when they shoot their load calling CG the Germans, then they look at Vox Day, Teddy Beale, and they go, oh, well, he's a super duper German. And so, well, no, he's not either. He's to the right of center, and he's facts aren't histophobic. You can't make facts and statistics histophobic, and the fact that you do is pure 1984. It's bizarre that they haven't read 1984. Or A Brave New World, or Fahrenheit 451, or Animal Farm, or what's that one where they go to the island, Lord of the Flies by William Golding? They haven't read any of those books. I don't know what they've read. They've read the Communist Manifesto by Moses Mordecai Levy. Who? Oh, Karl Marx. Or Bernstein. Who? Oh, Trotsky. Yeah, They know. It's not so much what they know; it's what they think they know, and what they don't know, what they think they know. It's like, as soon as you challenge their beliefs, it's like, oh, wow, maybe we don't. Like, where have these ideas worked? Anyway, where's I going with that? Everyone who disagrees with them is a hate group. So it's an ever-increasing group of hate group. It's just, Comicsgate is Germans. Oh, Vox Day is a super German. So, okay, what do you call the people who actually are, like, this straw man? Oh, well, they're just, like, so it's this ever-increasing group of people. It's like defamation, if you remember, New York Times versus Sullivan. Maybe that's not the right case, but there's different groups for defamatory statements of fact, where a smaller group, it's going to have more sting than medium groups and large groups. And the thing is, as the group gets larger and larger, the defamation has less and less sting. So they're expanding this group of Germans of the 30s to be like their grandfathers are definitely Germans of the 30s, and their grandfathers or great grandfathers who literally fought in the war against Japanese fascism are most certainly, assuredly, Germans of the 1930s, and their grandfathers who actually fought Germans in the 1930s are also Germans in the 1930s. Oh yeah, and the Polish and the Russians who fought the Germans are also neo-Germans. They don't hear themselves. They're just like children who just, they say whatever will please their masters. Oh, CNN told me, so it must be true. Where's it going with this? What happened on Twitter is these SCW Twitter kids cancel a legitimate POC artist, and then they break their arms cheering themselves. I said in 10 years that the Kathleen Kennedy Club is going to have black chapters, and it's probably going to be a black leader, customized robe. So these Twitter kids are saying that Joe Bennett is going to be wearing a white hood. I guess the funny thing is they say all this stuff about Joe Bennett. There's a guy in the center behind the cake. It'd be all these things. It's like they never show a picture of Joe Bennett, who's the next Robert Byrd, Hillary Clinton. Was that the Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden guy, Robert? They never show a picture of the guy. It's like, oh, he's the guy in the white hood. He's going to be wearing the white hood. I mean, do you realize how fucking ridiculous you sound when you say this kind of shit? When you call people making comics like Teddy Beale and Ethan and all these other people make comics, like you have, how can you be so profoundly stupid? I guess it's Dunning-Kruger, where you overestimate your abilities. It's like, have you picked up, like, just go pick up a dozen history books on World War II, and you might perhaps rethink your nomenclature in labeling people. Okay, so they're saying he's going to be wearing a white hood. These Twitter kids seem to know so much about Teddy Beale, a.k.a. Vox Day, which is kind of a silly name, coming from someone named Bianca Fights the Zombies, which means that either they listen to the guy daily, which begs the question, why would you listen to a guy that you think is an Austrian corporal, or they don't listen to him, and they're just repeating rumors that someone else told them without checking the source material, which is probably what they're doing, because why would you listen to somebody you don't even disagree with? I get the feeling that Teddy is kind of our guy on, I probably would agree with some of the things he's saying, but I don't even listen to the guy. I've heard him a few years ago when they were having the Comicsgate kerfluffle. I listened to him. It's like, he's not a normie. He's definitely right of center, but he's not saying anything crazy. You can't make facts istophobic. That's just, facts have to be on the table, and you've got to wash away all these emotions around them. The only way you can use facts and solve problems is if you don't have these attachments to these facts, and you don't immediately ad hominem someone who brings up these facts. Attack the argument, not the man. So saying facts are verboten got us to the clown world where we are now, where we literally have kids mutilated and sterilized. Many people would elect Satan himself if he said that he would destroy that degeneracy. And I hope I get to see that. So either Joe Bennett knew that he was on the chopping block with his political cartoons, or maybe now that I think about it, he might just have had no idea how far left the mainstream comics industry has shifted in just a few years. So anyway, fair-skinned sack of garbage Al Ewing, ethnicity unknown, gets a real legitimate POC fired and blacklisted. Bennett will never work in the mainstream again due to Al Ewing, which again has a lessened sting as the years go by, because the mainstream is kind of getting smaller and smaller. So someone pointed out that Bennett's stuff was actually innocent, but Al Ewing blacklisted a POC, so the only people who will work with him are Comicsgate and Teddy Beale. They call Comicsgate literal Germans of the 30s, but then they realize they shot their load in that there's nothing worse you can say, because to them that's as bad as it gets. So it's like, well, you just keep calling everyone that. It gets a little silly. These Twitter comic kids have become so horseshoe brainwashed that they don't question that maybe they've been manipulated by propagandists. That possibility never occurs to them. They think Teddy and CG are Nazis, but they also, because he thinks the 19th Amendment was a mistake. It totally was. It absolutely was a mistake. Even women know it was a mistake. What happened was the left wing didn't have these Germans, so they actually created them. And if anything, they're creating something that's going to be orders of magnitude beyond the straw man that they've built up in their mind. SJWs always lie and they always project. They say that our side wants to fill happy camps with their side and have a deletion barbecue. No, all we want to do is be left alone. The mass graves, that's something Bolsheviks do. At this point, our side just wants to take a few states and build a wall and keep their side out. Which, I mean, SJWs are parasites. So, if you did that and they had to live themselves and they had to live with all the degeneracy they're creating, it would be like the Chaz in a few months. Like if you literally gave them a state or a geographic region and say, hey, have at it, it would be the Chaz, because that's what you saw with the Chaz. You saw BLM just go nuts. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next episode.